Hi, welcome to Module 4. This is a mid-module test prep I created to help you prepare for the test. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start off with the structure of this test prep is going to follow the structure of the mid-module test. So we're going to start with multiply or divide, and you need to draw a model to explain your thinking. So yes, you need to use a tape diagram of sorts in order to explain what you do. So we have 3/6 of 9, or 9 copies of 3/6. So when I look at this, I know that 2 times 3 is hiding inside 6, and I know I can get rid of 3 and get rid of 3 in here. So this becomes 3 times 3 is 9 over 2, which reduces down to 4.5. So I know that's my answer, but now I need to draw a model to explain my thinking. So I'm going to do 9 copies of 3/6, but then I started thinking, well, 3/6 is really 1/2, right? So why don't I just draw, here's 9, I'm going to draw 9 boxes. And that's okay to do. I mean, we're just using our reasoning skills here. So 3/6, so 9 copies of 1/2. 3/6 is the same as 1/2, and even in my answer, I have a half. So I'm going to just divide these in half. Then I'm going to shade in half. So please feel free to copy this down, copy the problems down, try it independently, of course. So here's 1 hole, here's 2 holes, here's 3 holes, here would be 4 holes and a half. So that goes with our 4.5, right? Okay, now moving on to 2/3 of 10. All right, here we go. So I can't cross cancel here in order to make it easier to multiply. So I'm going to go 2 times 10 is 20 over 3. And then 3 will go in to 20. 3 times 6 is 18. And then there'll be 2 left over, so it becomes 2/3. So 6 and 2/3 is what the answer is to the problem. But this, remember that each problem has 2 parts, right? So problem 1 and 2, you're going to draw a model. So since we can't do any cross canceling, I'm just going to do 10 copies. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it would be hard to draw a tape diagram and divide a 10 into thirds. So I think this is the best way to go. So now I'm going to break it into thirds. 10 copies of 2/3. Let me shade in 2/3. You definitely want to shade in to show your 2/3. All right, now we're going to combine these and try to create as many holes as we can, right? So 1, 2, I'm going to do it this way. 1 hole. And then I'm going to come over here and go, here's another hole. So here's 1, here's 2. Here, I'm going to grab these 2. I'm going to grab one of those. That's a 3rd hole. Then I'm going to grab this one to make a 4th hole. Then here, I'm going to grab 2 and 1 of these. Here's my 5th hole. And then here's my 6th hole. And then here's 2/3. So I can show that this is equal to 6 2/3. I can prove it. All right, so now we're going to what we've been practicing, taking a fraction of a measurement. So 3/4 of 3 feet is, now how can we go about this? So 3/4, so we know, what do you know? So 1 foot is equal to 12 inches, right? And then here, 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. Now, I'd like you to copy down these two problems, and I'd like you to try to solve it independently, and then come back after you have solved those two and check to see how you did. Because remember, this is a test prep. So you're trying things out to see how you're doing, and then this is your opportunity to check to see how you're doing. All right, so did you go off and try to solve these, and now you're coming back to check? Now, if you notice, I'm trying to be really consistent with the way that I set up these problems. So 3/4 times 3 feet. Now I'm taking it to 3/4 times 1 foot. Now I'm going to convert my 1 foot into 12 inches. 3/4 times 12 inches. I'm going to multiply and get 9 inches. So 3/4 of 3 feet are 9 inches. Then we have 2/6 of 4 yards. So 2/6 times 4 yards, 2/6 times 1 yard. Now I'm going to convert 2/6 times 3 feet. And when you multiply, you end up with 1 foot. So 2/6 of 4 yards is equal to 1 foot. All right. Now, solving an expression. Here's an expression and here's an equation. Can you solve these? Remember, step 1, you always have to solve what's in the parentheses first before you do anything else. And the next thing to keep in mind is, remember, you can't multiply a mixed fraction. You have to turn it into what? That's right, an improper fraction. So go ahead and try those and come on back. All right, how did you do? So 4 and 5, 6 times 12 becomes 29 over 6 times 12. We could cross cancel. 29 times 2 is 58. That's your answer. Then we have 5 and 1/4 times 16. That's 21 over 4 times 16. Cross cancel. 21 times 4 is 84. All right. So how are you doing so far? Are you doing all right? Do you know your areas of strength? Do you know your areas of weakness and where you need to continue to practice? That's the big idea, right? Okay. And this stands for mid-module test prep right here. All right, now we're moving on. So this is very similar. Remember I was telling you about how the problems build on each other? Okay, so a recipe for brownies calls for 3 cups of flour, 6 cups of chocolate chips melted, and 4 cups of sugar. Now, you're copying this down, right? How much of each ingredient will she need if she only makes 3/4 of the recipe? So now you need to take each measurement. So this is for a full recipe, right? This is a full recipe, but we're only making 3/4 of that recipe. So again, what have we been doing in the last 4 or 5 lessons? Multiplying a fraction by a whole number, right? So what do you think we're going to continue to do? We're going to multiply a fraction by a whole number. What is our fraction? Well, it's 3/4, right? And what's our whole number for flour? Okay, it's 3. Now, what about chocolate chips? So we need to take 3/4 of 6 cups. And then we need to take 3/4 of 4 cups. And that will give us our new measurement. So now we're changing, we're changing the recipe. We don't want to make a full recipe. Instead, we're making 3/4 of that recipe. All right, so can you solve that? That's going to be the way to do it. On the test, there's going to be something similar where you're going to need to multiply a fraction by a whole number because you're taking a part of it. So go ahead and solve those, tell me. And so you need to label your answer as cups because these are all cups up here. These are all measurements in cups. So remember how we've been practicing in the fluency with converting from pints to cups and cups to quarts and then quarts to gallons? You're gonna need that information for the next part of the problem. So each one of these builds on each other. Okay, go ahead and solve and come back to check your work. All right, how did you do on your multiplication? Notice I make sure that the cup is designated next to it and I circle my answer because these are the 3 answers that you need to show. All right, next, how many fluid ounces of chocolate chips will she use? So we know in 1 cup, there are 8 ounces. So now we're going to use the 4.5 cups. How many fluid ounces are 4.5 cups? That's what we're looking for. So 8 ounces, right? What are we going to do? How do you think you should go about this? So I need to change each cup into, I need to convert it. Each cup is 4 ounces, but each cup is equal to 4 ounces. So what do you think we should do? Well, 4.5 cups, and we need to change it to how many ounces? So what I want you to do is try this out and try it out based on what we've done before and see what you come up with. All right, so we're rationalizing this out. So 4.5 cups is equal to how many ounces? So I know 4 cups. So in each cup, in each of the 4 cups, there's going to be 8 ounces, right? So 4 times 8 is going to be 32 ounces. 1/2 of a cup, which is here, half a cup times 8 ounces is really gives us, so this is multiplication, right? 1/2 times 8 ounces gives you 4 ounces. You add them up to get 36 ounces. There are 36 ounces of chocolate chips. Okay, now we're going to cut the brownies into 36 equal pieces. Then give 1/4 of the brownies to the office and the rest we get to eat. So the remaining we get to eat. So going back to that problem that we are working on about the flour and the 3 containers. Okay, so this problem takes us back to that. So I want you to try this independently, and then I want you to come back and see how you did. So you need to solve it out. All right, good luck. Okay, I solved this problem using a tape diagram. So 36 equal pieces, that means that we are going to end up with 36 brownies. Then we're going to give it 1/4 of the brownies to the office. So I knew to cut it into fourths. So 1/4 of 36 makes 9. So there are 9 brownies that we're going to give to the office. And then we get to keep the rest. So 9 times 3 is 27. 27 brownies we get to eat. All right. Almost there. All right. So if this whole bar is equal to 5 units long, So see, this bar right here is equal to 5 units long. What is the length of the shaded part of the bar? What is the length? Length. Okay, so we solve this. Think about this for a second. So it's 5 units long. So we have a tape diagram that is cut into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces, right? 7 equal pieces. And we have 5 sevenths that are, so 5 sevenths of what? 5 units long. 5 sevenths of 5 units long. See if you can solve it. Go ahead. All right, so 5 sevenths of 5. So you can't cross cancel. So 5 times 5 is 25 over 7. You do a simple division problem and end up with 3 and 4 sevenths. Now look up here. So did we answer the question? What is the length of the shaded part of the bar? So it's 3, and of course it's not perfect, but it's 3. You can see it's 3 and more than 3, right? So it's 3 and 4 sevenths units long. All right. We are moving to the next section. In this section of the mid-module test prep, circle the expressions that are equal to 3/5. It might be hard for you to read. 3/5 times 7. Then explain why the others are not equal using words. So the ones that are equal, you don't need to explain. The ones that are not equal are the ones you need to use words to explain why they're not equal. Okay? So this is a review of, I believe, lesson 10. So go ahead and try it out. And remember, before you start, you might want to solve this. You might want to solve them and explain why they're either not equal. Okay, so how did you do? 3 times 7/5 is 21 over 5. Yes. Yes, it checks out. And then 3 divided by 5, the product of 5 times 7 is 35 over 3. So that's no. And I had to explain it saying, because the parentheses are around the 5 and 7, you must solve that first, which changes the problem, because if the parentheses weren't there, it would be 3 over 5 times 7, which would be 3 over 5 times 7, right? Then 3 times 7 is 21, divided by 5. 3 times 7/5 is 21 over 5, and yes, those all check out. So knowing how to explain it, knowing that maybe possibly just because the parentheses that are there, that has changed the problem. This is the way you do it. Okay. And then our last 2 problems for mid-module test prep. This is definitely on the test as well, and it's in a section just like this. Write the following as expressions. So you need to be able to put the words into the expression, into the numerical expression. So you have 3 of those, and yes, they need to be correct, but sometimes because of the commutative property, it doesn't matter if something comes first or second in the numerical expression. So yours might actually look different than one of your friends. Okay, so go ahead and try those out and come on back and see how you did. All right, how did you do? 1/4 times for the sum of 4 and 8. 6 times the quotient. Remember quotient, 9 divided by 3. Then 3/4 the difference between 4, 6, and 3/4. 3/4 the difference. So 3/4 of the difference between 4, 6, and 3/4. Now, on the test, I believe you should, is bonus, is extra points, is to actually solve. So if I were you, I'd practice solving those and see how you do. Come back and check it in just a moment. All right. So bonus point, you don't want to give up any points. So if you have the opportunity to make extra points, I would go for it. So 3, 18, and 5 16ths. These two are, you can just do in your head. So 1/4 of 12, 6 times 3. You can just do those in your head. All right, last problem. And remember I forget what lesson it was. It said to graph it, and then what I read was graph the I think graph the milk. So, but it's really, you're supposed to use a line plot. So remember, I went back and I changed it to a line plot. Okay, so line plot. Make sure you know what these are represent fractions on a number line, right? So make sure you label your fractions that are not on the whole numbers. Then you have to add them up. So remember, before you had to find in the problem set and in the homework, you were given a chart and you had to take a fraction of a whole number. You had to take a fraction of another measurement, and then from there, you need to add them all up. So here, just condensed it down to, so here's 1/4, 2/4, here's 3/4, right? So I don't know if you remember, on one of the fractions, I had to stop and think to myself, oh, wait a minute. I want to keep this in fourths because I have to add them all up, and it's going to make it a lot easier to add them up if I keep it all in the same fraction, on the same fraction number line. So now this is 2 1/4, 2 1/2. But instead of going 2 1/2, I'm going to go 2 2/4, because if I have to add these up, it's going to make it a lot easier, right? And then 3 1/4, and then 3, here's a fourth, here's a half, here's 3/4. So this is 3 3/4, right? All right. So now that was step 1. First, before you can do anything, you need to label your line plot. Then you need to say, I have 3/4 how many times? I have 3/4 2 times. I have 2, 1, 2, 3 times. I have 2 2/4, 1, 2, 3, 4 times, right? So think about that as you go about adding all this up. So you can multiply a whole number by a fraction, get that number in order to add everything up, or you can create one gigantic addition sentence. Okay, go ahead, start it, and come back to see how you did. All right, so I broke it down to 4 steps. So I said 2 times 3/4 plus 2 times 3 plus 4 times 2 2/4 plus 3 1/4 plus 2 times 3 3/4. So step 2. So I just pulled all the information down and lined it up. Then I ended up with 2 6/4, 6 plus 40 over 4, which I realized, well, that's really 10. Then 3 1/4 plus, this becomes 30 over 4. So now what I did is I pulled out the whole numbers, 6 plus 3 plus 10, and then I kept my fractions and I added my fractions together, which comes to 19 plus 37 over 4. So you do the division. What does this end up as a fraction? 4 goes into 37. 9 times 4 is 36. 1/4 is your fraction. So 19 plus 9 is 28 and a fourth. That is what all those fractions add up to. All right. So this, if you can do it, if I were you, I'd rewrite this out and practice it again so that you're ready for the mid-module test. All right. Good luck on the test.